Ladies and gentlemen, let's try this thing again. This is take two. You might not have heard take one, but this is take two. This is the Black Baseball Mixtape. It is October 10th. We are live. That's right, live, and we're talking Major League Baseball playoffs. Before we do anything, let me make sure that I'm taking care of our business and let you know that the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast is brought to you in partnership with Stilo Sports, the Players Alliance, Horencia 21, Numbers Game Scorecards, and Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds. Those last two, Number Game Scorecards and Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds, if you visit them on their website and you use the discount code Black Baseball Mixtape or BBM, you will get a discount on the Black Baseball Mixtape products, and you will also help fund this wonderful show. It is amazing to be joined by our senior contributor and resident Mets homer. That's right, Flobo Boys, the mayor, is in
What's
the
up?
building. I know we want to talk about Mets. I know we're going to do a
I know
Flobo.
I do. I know I do.
Before we do that, though, let me just tell you, we're in the top of the seventh. The Guardians have a 4-3 lead over the red hot Tigers. The Tigers have a 2-1 lead in the series, but the Guardians have a 4-3 lead. They are going into the bottom of the seventh. So the Tigers, because they're playing in Detroit, the Tigers will be able to come up. They need a run. We just finished one in Kansas City in Kaufman. The Yankees are up 1-0. The Yankees got 2 hits, and they are up 1-0 off an RBI from your boy, Juan Soto. That's right. The man you call the villain himself,
He's a
Juan
villain to me,
Soto,
cheats.
had delivered a first inning RBI. So that's where we are live. We're welcoming everybody in to the playoff talk. Welcome, welcome. Come on in to Instagram. Let us know your questions in the chat. But hey, look, Flobo,
Yo.
I'm gonna keep it 1,000 with you. The floor is yours because I didn't call this. I'm off. I called the Phillies. I lost. You won. You've called the 2024 Miracle Mets. I'm giving you the floor. Take all the time you need and tell me what you think about where we are with the New York Metropolitans.
First of all, I want to give a shout out to the Black Baseball Mixtape community. I got so many DMs. People are coming to the aid of Juan Soto and his villainy.
Twerking.
no, no,
Twerking.
but
No twerk zone.
there's
That's
no
what you said.
twerk zone. Don't be sashaying out here, bro. No, let's be honest with you, man. Like the Mets had nothing going for them in May, man. 0-5, and we can really go into what changed for them, but no one saw them going as far as they did, and they somehow just neutralized a Phillies team that, by any metric, would have been the presumptive National League contender to go to the World Series, the pennant winner. So I'm happy. I'm excited. Granted, 25,000 men were left on base last night, but all it took was one swing from Francisco Lindor, man. I was hitting roof, man. It was awesome.
It was awesome for anybody that was there in Citi Field, all the Mets fans. You did get the sense watching the game. You got the sense that it was only a matter of time. They just had too many runners on base, and you just felt like those guys, the resilience they showed all series, usually coming from behind. I don't even know if they really led any of the games. It just seemed like they were always coming from behind. You couldn't count them out. You had to play the whole game, and if you played the whole game, it seemed like the Mets were going to do something to win. Let's talk a little bit about Lindor as well, because
Okay.
Lindor is the biggest star on the team. I obviously had a monster year this year, but it's going to get overlooked nationally because of what Shohei and some of the Shohei did basically. Um, but Lindor, we talked about this I think on one of the last episodes. He's a top 5 selling jersey in all of Major League Baseball in 2024. He plays in New York, which is obviously major media market. He's awesome. Everybody seems to love him.
Now,
Is he the star? No, right. Is he the star that maybe a guy like me, Cheats, is overlooking? But is he the star that really could carry the flag for Major League Baseball, if you will, in regards to making the sport more popular?
He can now. And I think when you have top five jerseys, typically those in the top five usually stand for something besides just the play on the field. And Francisco Lindor had the tools. I mean, when we purchased him from Cleveland, back then it was the Indians, right? It was this kind of expectation that he was going to be good. Didn't really make that happen at first, but he got older, he matured. He's a family man. There are people that we call the Lindor because they kept saying how much he was getting paid and how he wasn't contributing, but he found a way to put this team on his back, no pun intended, with his back injury this season when things were not going well on offense and in defense. And so the Mets have been the symbol of this just futility, like if it, for such a long time. The Yankees were the gold standard of baseball. It was always a punchline. One of my favorite movies of all time, Men in Black, had my man getting knocked with a fly ball over at Shea Stadium. And so we were able to have the Mets be serious. Yeah, Grimace aside, Hawk Tour girl aside, there has to be somebody on that field. And Alonso was in the down year. McNeil was in the down year. Lindor was really the only one who tried to play every single day except for the injury. Yeah, he can be the symbol of taking a team to the promised land.
That's it. I like how you went about that because, again, and we're going to talk a lot about the Mets today. We are. Because you follow this closely. It does feel like Cohen and the boys were always trying to figure out ways to, be relevant, for lack of a better term, be really relevant. Like the Mets are relevant because they're the Mets. They play in New York. But the Cohen is trying to figure out ways to be the most talked about popular team in all of baseball. And it's kind of interesting because you talked about Grimace, and you talked about some of the other things that they've done this season. But the fact of the matter is, they're more popular right now than they've been all season, and it's because of what they did on the field.
Yeah.
That seems crazy to me.
Yeah. When Cohen took over the team, the plan that gets run in papers a lot was I want a championship for the Mets in 5 years. I want us to be the Dodgers of the East. I mean, shout out to the Dodgers. I'm wearing the cap now for my commercial, but I'm just whatever. But the idea was it was ups and downs. And I think the difference between this and previous regimes, shout out to Billy Epler or even the Wilpons, is that Cohen and company and David Stearns are willing to cut bait when things don't work out. At the beginning of the season, if you can really go into this, how the Mets change over time, there was guys like Zach Short and Joey Wendell and Omar Narvaez that were on the team. And I feel like if the Wilpons were still in charge, it would say, hey, look, we made the moves for the year. Let's ride it out. But those guys got DFA'd into the AAA and being able to move with moving parts. Iglesias being called up in late May really was the on-field catalyst for that team. And that was never anyone who was so mindful of a team saying, this part isn't working, let's swap it out in the middle of the season as David Stearns, and it actually is paying off dividends.
Well, let's go into that. You said we can go into it because I do want to go into it.
Sure.
The season, when you look at the Mets season overall, I am fascinated. For somebody that did not follow the Mets that closely throughout the entire season. They were 89 and 73, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were 89 and 73. They get into the wild card, right? And we will talk about this because it proves, I think it continues to prove my theory of you want to be the team that's the most active and the hottest team, right? You want to be active and hot. Look at the Phillies. Look at the run production.
Man.
I'm just saying. How did we get here? How did we get here? Because if we're looking at the playoffs and we're looking at the NL East, the Mets are the 6th seed. And again, this is not foreign for what is now the Major League Baseball playoffs of the last, 3 years? The 6th seed takes out the wild card, takes out the divisional, and now they're playing in the National League Championship Series. How did we get here with this Mets team?
Well, first of all, shout out to Philadelphia Phillies. I have a stat here for you. They batted 186 against New York with 6 for 31 runners in scoring positions, and the relievers had an 11.31 ERA. So I can say the Mets did well, but the Phillies didn't really do themselves any favors. So
horrible.
They were terrible.
Because they're cold.
They're stop with okay. Look, I will not deny the layoff does mess up with timing. That's what I'm not arguing about. But I'm saying is, you find me a tournament format that is fair to anyone who is a
Right,
high
right,
seed
right,
or
right,
finishes early.
right.
You got the Mets have to wait now because the Dodgers and Padres are doing the game 5. If
Yep.
they lose, I'll be upset, but you can't be like, it's the layoff because they
It
earned
could
that spot there.
be.
It could be, but I'm not going to ask to have the whole tournament change. You're the
It
best team in
could
baseball.
be.
Make it happen. And the Mets were
Oh,
the best team in baseball since June 1st. This is why I don't really buy into the whole got hot at the right time. That's half the season. There were 10, 11 games below 500 to 28 games above 500 now. It took some time and they got them there. But look at the defense, how that thing was aligned. You had Brett Beatty at third, and you
yep.
had Jeff McNeil at second, which
Yep.
were capable, but they were a little bit slow in the transition. The game was good, but it wasn't fluid. And Francisco Lindor, because he's such a leader on the team, felt he had to cover more ground. Plays were a little bit slower. And with Omar Narvaez not good at throwing people out at second base, you were basically giving your opponents 2 runs per game before the first pitch. And you can't win when that happens. And what happened? They decided to go with Vantos at third. Jeff McNeil got kind of shuffled around. He was actually benched for the London series. They call up Iglesias, and Iglesias to Lindor, Lindor to Luis Acuna has been highlight reel material ever since. And this is what I'm talking about. Teams, past Mets organizations would not have made that change in the middle of the stream. And I'm so glad David Stearns did.
That's interesting. So their ability to adjust, right? Their their ability to, for lack of a better term, like you said, get hot at the right time.
And cut bait.
And they're so that's one of the biggest things that the ability to adjust, cut bait, go with what's working, and start to collect these wins. All of that, I think, again, people that are novice Mets watchers are also just you have to be impressed with the team that's as resilient as they've shown to be. Now, resilience like this is kind of contagious, right? And what I mean by
Right.
that is what I mean by that now, no matter who they play in the National League Championship series, no matter what inning it is, because they've proven it in the wild card and the divisional series, we're gonna believe that they're not out of it until out 3 of the ninth inning, right?
Right.
But you tell me, because you've watched them a lot, is that who this team is? Is this who that team has been? This come from behind, never say die, quit team all year?
You know what? It's funny because if you look at the last month of Mets games, that's been the case, right? It's been cold bats, and then all of a sudden we go to Chicago, South Side, we get no hit by Garrett Crochet, and then we win that game. Or we go to Milwaukee twice and we just get totally silent and we win that game. And that's great because that tells you that the team is not willing to give up. And that's kind of the DNA. But the thing is, I want to go back to a month ago because a lot of my Padres fans were sending me memes where Gary Cohen, who's one of the broadcasters over in New York, was saying, hey, the Mets are the pennant chase. How come there's only 15,000? How come there's only 17,000? How come there's only 20,000 people in the stands? I don't think that the Mets fandom was any less believing in the team, but they've been hurt before. And no matter how old you are, if you remember,
They've got. So you're saying they've got
we
trauma? We got
trauma.
trauma from a bad relationship.
We got 2015 with the Royals. We got 06 with Beltran being frozen up. We got 2016 game 163. We got all those other opportunities. For me, my first heartbreak was the Subway World Series in 2000, where I thought we were going to win. It was kind of this cautious optimism, and I know a lot of purist baseball fans make fun of Grimace and Max Wiener, the rally pimp, and Seymour Wiener and Hawk Tua and Glizzy Iggy and all these other meme things. But it is almost like a way to get those lapsed fans to say, hey, look, you may not believe that we're going to go all the way, but hey, is Grimace funny to you? Is this hot dog eating dog funny to you? Oh, wait, now we're winning. And that got people to go to the crowd. When Brandon Nimmo was like, we need you to show up, they did. People tell me that Philly and Citizen Bank Park is one of the best home field advantages in baseball. Citi Field outdid them. That never happens in Queens. And we did. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. I mean, and again, like we said, yeah, shout out to my man Leon. What's going on? The lab is always amazing. So shout out to my homie. That it's interesting that you mention all of those things because and then this could be just me, but I was leaning. I felt like Cohen was also leaning into more of that celebrity, not like even the quirky, but like I remember like Ghostface Killer and Raekwon and RZA. All of those guys are like in the Mets box, and that's
Right.
like the first time I was like, "Yo, they're in the president's box of the Mets game," and it's like Wu Tang, or if it's I think is Seinfeld a
Oh,
big
he's a
Mets
Mets fan. Yeah, he's a
yeah,
huge
so it
Mets
was
fan.
like that was a little bit more given, but it just seemed like they took this like nod to like trying to make their culture cooler and their culture more celebrity. Now and again, Yankees fans will look at this and say, "We don't have to try. We just have
Yeah,
these things." But it
right.
just seemed like Cohen was more willing to try to. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seemed like to me, Cohen understood what position the Mets were in.
Hmm.
He didn't have like this, oh, we're already the Yankees type thing in New York. Like,
Sure.
no, we know the Yankees are the Yankees. We're the Mets. We know who the Mets are. But let's kind of build up and be a little extra. Like, let's try to take some of this either, from the Yankees or just gain new fandom, which seemed to me like something new.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that
So
I don't know if that makes
So
sense.
before I go into the whole what Steve Cohen has done or his organization has done, I want to take a step back because I've been lucky enough to travel for baseball and for life or whatever in my travels. If you can travel, anyone listening, please do it. And what I like about being a Mets fan over being a Yankees fan is that the Yankee NY is like a global brand. It's like Manchester United. It is a brand. The
It,
whole you can buy a Yankee crap and cap in like Detroit to Tokyo to Melbourne, Australia. It's kind of a
and
thing.
it's not just a global brand, it is the most iconic. Like it
Absolutely.
is, yeah, it's like the Cowboys have nothing on the Yankees. Like all of these big, like, oh, you see this, no, you see the
Yeah.
pinstripes, you see that NY hat, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And when you see someone with a Yankee hat, it could be a baseball fan, a fan of New York, a fan of the culture, someone who just decides to buy into some icons as well. And that's great. And I'm not knocking Yankee fandom. I think the team has deserved their championships. I know people hate, 27 rings, half of them are artifacts, and black people can play for 15 of them. But
Right,
I
right.
won't take that away from you. You won the rules, you won the rules. But when you're a Mets fan, and I see people with a Mets hat in Australia, they have some connection to that city. Either they're from that city, got a parent from that city. They were laid over in LaGuardia for 12 hours and went to a game. And so there's kind of like this nostalgia for this hometown. We are a hometown team for the world's town. So when Steve Cohen took it over and added things like the deep fried Italian rainbow cookie egg roll and the Queen's dance crew and Mrs. Met not having her own profile on social media anymore, it really was leaning into the quirkiness of New York where it becomes this inside joke. And I can tell you this now, I'm not trying to knock anybody, but I have not seen so many Yankee fans be like, I'm a Yankee fan, but this week go New York. In my life, that has never happened before. It was always screw the Mets. And I was like, well, it's kind of cool with the orange and blue, but I'm a Yankee fan. Like, come on. So get on that
so,
train, and the
so
vibes are high.
so let me ask you this, because I think what you're saying is right, but I'm wondering directional wise, do you think Cohen would want to be a global brand that is not as associated with, like you said, that connection of,
Yeah,
if I see someone in Tokyo wearing a Mets hat, they probably still have a connection to Mets fandom. That is not the
absolutely.
case for the Yankees, right? So my question to you is, do you think Cohen would want to be in a place where they're wearing Mets gear all over the world, whether they root for the Mets or not?
Absolutely. But if
So
you're a
that's
smart,
interesting. That's different.
no, no,
That's
no.
a
But
change in philosophy.
that is a long-term goal, and I think that may happen if the Mets somehow become a team that wins a lot, right? Like you look at the Braves. The Braves are kind of like a Southern fried baseball brand. But the thing about Cohen is you have to get local buy-in. The Mets have been a butt of jokes for everything. It was always
Yeah.
SNL, doesn't matter what era, because it's always like in the city, in New York City, these two teams. One's good. What's the other one's called? Little brother or whatever. The Padres are doing that right now. So yeah, you want to make sure people locally are with it, are down to it, and then 5, 10, 15 years down the line, grow the brand so you can make your return on investment. But as it is right now, I live in Los Angeles currently. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm seeing Mets caps. That wasn't the case in
No.
2022 when we had 101 wins, and that's saying something.
That is saying something because I think there's a combination of winning, which the Mets are currently winning right now. The team having some personality, the team having some stars, and again, I think is it fair to say just quickly? Is it fair to say Lindor is an underrated star right now? Like again,
Yeah.
he's got he's like a top 5 jersey seller. I think the number is we talked about it. It's Shohei, Harper, Judge, Betts, and I think Lindor is 5. Can
Yeah.
you be underrated and be the 5th highest jersey seller in 2024?
Yeah, absolutely. Because before this season, before 2024, I was on the Black Baseball Mixtape for 2 years, and not once was Lindor mentioned. Why? And I'm not trying to be like, we need more Lindor content,
I feel
but
attacked.
no, I'm not. Yeah, Cheats. It
I
was
feel
your fault.
personally attacked.
It's
I
all
feel
your fault.
personally attacked.
No, but I'm
How
saying
dare you?
there's so many different personalities and teams
Right.
that need it. And the fact is last year the Mets weren't good. So when you're not good, you're not going to be a superstar. And
Yeah.
that number, $341 million, has been hanging over Lindor every year he wasn't good. So here is somebody who basically willed the team, even not so much offensive defense, which Shohei, to his credit or discredit, doesn't play defense this season. But you'll
Right.
see things where, like, hey, Lindor told, like last night, Edwin Diaz was in that he was pitching all over the plate, was getting ball after ball after ball. They had the on mound meeting. Edwin Diaz is going, let's go, and Lindor goes, don't say let's go, just do it. That leadership was not quite there when Lindor was in his age 26, age 27 seasons. He's 30 now. I do think that he's underrated, but not for long. If the Mets advance and the Dodgers advance, and you have MVP candidate Lindor versus MVP candidate Shohei Ohtani, I think that may be the coming out party that he's looking for.
I'm hoping to see that. And I think you are right. To be fair to exactly what you said, we've done a number of segments on the mixtape of if you're starting a franchise today, who do you start the franchise with? How
You
do
said
you
O'Neal
rank?
Cruz.
Right. If you're ranking the top 20 players in MLB baseball, like who are you ranking 1 through 10, blah, blah, blah. We've done tons of those. We will continue to do those because people like them and I like to do them. Lindor is never over analyzed. I think if anything, Lindor is the fantasy guy that drops down, right?
Can I say, because I know we did the fantasy baseball this season. I picked Bobby Witt Jr. myself, but
Yeah.
I bought Lindor's jersey when the City Connects dropped, which I wrote some articles for. Shout out to blackbaseballmixtape.com. I bought that jersey because of what he represents. Yeah, he was good in the field, but imagine me being from a hometown where you put your head down, you show up every day. Lindor played 162 last season, one of only 4 players to do it. Half the city wants you gone anyway, and he's still the offensive thing. The whole idea of being like, yo, you can work as hard as you want, people, you still got haters, is the most New York thing possible.
Right.
But with the actual team winning now and shocking the world, that goes beyond the city culture. That goes beyond, wait, how are they doing it? Aiden Alonso, he's having a down year. Jesse Winker, he's a journeyman. Like he's a white Tommy Pham. like how are we doing? Oh, it's Lindor. Okay, cool. Let me see more about this guy. That's really what's happening.
No, you're right about again, I don't want to get off topic here, but you're right about Winkler. Like, how's that guy get so much heat? I don't understand. Like, we talked about Nemo on the last podcast, and it seemed like Nemo's doing this fake tough guy thing where he really wants to get a lot of heat.
He's fired up.
Winkler just shows up, and it seems like he naturally gets a lot of heat. What am I missing about Winkler that draws so much heat from fans?
One of the things we've always missed was a goon. In 2022 and 23, the Mets led the most hit by pitches in all of major leagues. And Buck Showalter did nothing. He would sit there and go, and it felt like any team can get one over on us. So Jesse Winker is kind of an old school player, 70s, 80s. He chews tobacco. He has a bottom row grill. If you don't like him, he pops off. And that's something we haven't had since the 86 and 87 squad. So for a little bit of a context, when he was a Red, a lot of Mets fans didn't like him because he would choke at the audience and all that. And I thought it was fun. I love that kind of stuff. I hate Soto shuffles, but talking to the audience, I love it. But look what happened in Milwaukee. So we had that 15-day stretch where we weren't at home, which is nuts, being away from home for 15 days. The last series of the weekend, They throw at Winker, and he goes, "Okay, bet." They come back to Atlanta. They beat the Braves for one of the games. They go back to Milwaukee, and he's chirping at Adamas,
Yeah.
excuse me. And
Yeah.
the idea was
He's
like,
going in.
he's going in on him, yo, F you, whatever. See you in the parking lot. Adamas goes back, and I go, we needed someone to fire people up, right? We need someone like Mendoza to say, that ticks me off. Because if you have that psychological advantage, this is a Brewers team. In the beginning of the season, Reese Hoskins sent to Jeff McNeil, did the crying emoji, and everyone sided with Reese Hoskins.
They're
So you won.
The Brewers are fighting everyone this year. If we
Yeah.
do end of the season awards and you want to talk about the most hockey baseball team there is, it was the Brewers. The Brewers were fighting everyone this year.
Facts, man. So I like the fact we have our own goon, our own Incredible Hulk, our own dude. He's a journeyman, which is musically too. I'm not sure how long he's gonna be in the team, but someone to say I'm not going to take that, that's amazing. So if it gets people fired up, I'm with it.
So I mentioned before, and I've been very public about it, that I wanted to see, Philly. I want to see LA. I want to see the Yankees go really far because my team is out, and I'm just rooting for big, big stars.
Okay.
This Mets team, like you said, Lindor, Pete Alonso, they've got some names still. Not the names that they had when they had won 100 games with, who was it, Scherzer, and who else was on that bump?
Yeah, Scherzer DeGrom was 22, then Scherzer Verlander was 23.
Yeah. But am I wrong in saying I know Harper's a bigger star, don't get me wrong. And they have Trey Turner in Philadelphia, they had Kyle Schwarber. But am I kind of wrong in the way that I'm placing this Mets team? Can this Mets team, because again, the way they're winning is leading the A block of SportsCenter because it's coming from behind. They're rushing the field, they're walking things off. Is there a part of me that when you look at the big picture and say, nah, Cheats, like, it doesn't really have to be Philly. It doesn't have to be the Dodgers. It can be the Mets.
If you're someone that doesn't follow Philly and you want to know things on paper, I would say, yeah, you really want Philly to be there because Bryce Harper was somebody who got to the dance a couple times in 22. If you just watch playoff ball, I get that. But if you want to go with the big story, and I think it doesn't really matter because on this side of the bracket, you got the Padres, a team that's never won a championship, but they have all these stars, and you have the Los Angeles Dodgers with 3 MVPs and their lineup. It's less pressure on the other side, Phillies or New York, to be that dance partner. I'm just glad because New York is really messing around with the McDonald's mascot. That's something that's easily translated. Japanese baseball love their mascots, man. You're fine. Yeah. On the other side too, like the Yankees aren't my favorite team, but I mean they are looking for something since 2009. Kansas City, I mean Bobby Witt Jr., he was a guy that it did a whole thing with. So you have the people to pull from. These are not the constructed, pieced together teams like last year's Diamondback squad, no offense to them, where it was kind of like, wow, this is the spirit of really putting your nose down. You have some guys to play off of for storylines.
And I love it because, again, I'm always somebody that's looking for what is, First Take and Get Up and SportsCenter and these shows. What are they going to lead with? I actually really was very interested to see today and, what do these guys lead with? And the interesting thing is baseball, this is what they're doing. A lot of them.
Hit me.
The A block is always going to be football. The block, right? Keyword block. The block is going to be football. The block is going to be what's happening with, the Jets fire their coach or whatever. But what they're doing is they actually start the show with what happened in the playoffs last night. If it was dramatic, like a Francisco Lindor grand slam home run that takes the lead and the Mets beat the Phillies. They actually lead with that.
Yeah.
They don't talk about it. They'll say, this is the highlight. Oh my God, the Mets are going. We'll come back to this. We'll talk about it later. And then they go to the Jets or Aaron Rodgers or Devontae. But even that little recognition, I think, is a bit of a sea change. Now, and again, one day I would love for them to literally talk about like the game and the playoffs, like they talked about. The only time they really did that was with the Shohei scandal back in back in the earlier part of the season. But I would love for us in the game to get to the point where they're talking about it, and we have to have the big enough stars. And I know every game of the World Series leads off all those A blocks if it's Shohei versus Judge.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I get it. I get why people are like. I think somebody was giving me a real hard time in the comments yesterday or today because they were like, "Oh, you're just rooting for the best teams money can buy," and it's
Right.
like, now the Royals are. I get it, but I'm also rooting for the biggest stars, right?
So I'm with you 100%, and I feel like thankfully the Mets are the most high profile sad team ever, right? Because it's not like the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah,
it's not like the Colorado. Even Detroit's not even being like a top story for a lot of people.
Cleveland,
So
Detroit is the underdog of these playoffs. Like
they're the team everyone knows is bad, I guess.
Yeah.
I went to Japan once, and I don't know if you can see this here on the visual. I have an umbrella for the Tokyo Yakult Swallows, and I'm a Yakult Swallows fan because I said, "Oh, which team should I support?" Well, the Swallows are the Mets of Japan baseball. Like, so I'm in. Didn't even care who else was playing.
I know what that means.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all with that. So you're going to get Shohei, or you're going to get Machado, and you're going to get Judge. Those stars are there, but I think the brand of this bad news Bears team with Grimace. It wasn't just them winning like the Tigers. The Tigers are just winning. They're winning with friendship. But this team, the Mets, are winning with like Grimace and a war veteran. And one of the players has a Latin song that's getting remixed with Pitbull that's coming out tomorrow. Like that is something that seems out of a movie. And that is like catnip for ESPN or CBS Sports or whatever.
And before we move on, hopefully the bigger the Mets get, obviously we want Flobo, the bigger you to get as well as the Mets insider. But the bigger our homies J.R. Simpson and Jingle Man get from In the Booth fame. So if you have not heard those In the Booth podcast episodes hosted by Flobo Boys, it is J.R. Simpson music and Jingle Man, right?
And the Jingle Man, yeah. And we got GM Talks coming out too, coming in a couple weeks.
That's coming as well. So there's a Mets heavy component. If you want to go inside the underbelly of Black Mets baseball fandom, In the Booth is your show. And I'm excited, honestly, about who the Mets are going to play. And let's talk about who we think the Mets are going to play because the series is tied. It goes back to LA for game 5. It is my favorite playoff series I can remember for a very long time. Like, this has got everything. This is a soap opera in a ballpark. The interesting thing I want to lead, and I want to ask you this, because now that we've gotten to game 5, it's going to go back to LA. There is a real villain feel to the entire Padres team.
Yes, they are the villains.
And it's like, in my mind, I feel like they want to be the villains. Like, they were home last night, and I still felt like they wanted to be the villains. They don't want to be the baby faces, if you will. They want to be the heels, and they want to move on. They want to be the Dodgers. The Dodgers are like, this is the interesting thing about the way that sets up for me. I feel like the Dodgers are like natural heels that want to be baby faces that the crowd just has to figure. Like, the Dodgers are Cody Rhodes before.
That's funny. Yeah.
Dodgers are Cody Rhodes in AEW because he wanted to be a face so bad. And the crowd's like, nah, dog, you're a heel. Just be a heel, turn into a heel, whatever. And I think that's what the Dodgers are over here like, hey, man, we just want to play ball. Like us. And the Padres are like, nah, bring us the heat. Bring us the smoke. Boo us. We don't care. We're going to take it to these babyface bums as best we can.
It is a weird dynamic in San Diego and Los Angeles. I tell us a lot on your Tuesday show too. I've been out here in LA for 17 years. I've gone to both. I used to go to more Padres games back when they weren't good. And the reason why I think Padres are heels is that fans came out the woodwork and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm day one fans," but they're not. But I'm keeping the fans out of this. The Dodgers are the symbol of success, right? They are the MJFs. They are the Charlotte Flair. So they're very easy to hate. They don't really do anything, but the idea this big market city with a stolen team from Brooklyn is able to win so many championships, and the one they won was the COVID shortened season that was a third of the length. They're very hateable. That said, if you're the Padres, you have to have that chip on your shoulder. It isn't just let's have a good time, guys. It's no, we have to slay the dragon of what's considered the class of the entire Western United States. It ain't the A's, it ain't the Giants no more. It isn't the Rockies. It isn't Arizona. It's the Dodgers. If you want anyone to take you seriously, because you've never won a championship, you got to go after them. So it was a dogfight. It was definitely Bush League going out there. I know on Tuesday shows I said I want win to get that demon exercise. But for the spirit of baseball, we really want Shohei to move on the place. I'm not dumb.
You know? Yeah, it's and I told you how I feel, but I also there's a part of me that feels like the Dodgers are just limping. If they survive
literally
game 5 at home, I feel like to me, because Freddie, I don't know if it's the Freddie injury and he's always literally limping, but it's like I feel like they're just kind of struggling and still kind of struggling and overcoming. Where say what you will about this Padres team, it's tough, man. Tatis, Arias, Machado, Jackson Murrell. Like I'm like Xavier Bogaerts. I'm like, God, these guys are loaded. How did they get so loaded? And the interesting thing is the Padres do take on the team takes on the personality of their players, and in particular their star players. And Machado is like their biggest star player that I think the team really reflects the Manny Machado attitude, for better or for worse. And
definitely
I think
for
that's
worse.
why we get what we get with the Padres. I mean, pro forward now, and obviously with the robbing of the home run and the baiting, which how eerie was it that he had almost the exact same play to start game 4? He could have caught that ball.
Right.
The Mookie Betts home run.
That's karma, man. I'm telling you. To me, that's when I was like, I'm not a purist, Cheats. I mean, besides the ghost run in the 10th, give me all the swag, give me all the flash, give me all the rules. Home run was so Bush League. It ticked me off. It ticked me off because he was like, this crowd doesn't like that. I'm like, you can't be a heel and be surprised. I don't get that. But
you gotta
but
Machado, for what it's worth, Machado wants all the heel smoke. Machado does not. He'll take it.
I'll give any credit to anyone who wants to be a villain because every league needs that. But even on paper, and granted, it's kind of weird after the fact because the Mets won. It did feel in these division series we're going to be wars of attrition, and who was ever left will be ashes to face each other. The Mets have some rest, hopefully it's for the advantage. But even if the Phillies won, I feel the Phillies would have an advantage over who wins this one. That game 4 in San Diego, the Padres was silent. Petco was silent. Makes you wonder whether or not they have any more. So it's going to be a fight. But whoever wins this one will not be like a Rose in the championship series for sure.
Yeah, interesting that you say that because I'm thinking about it. And I hate to say this because he's such a good player. And obviously he struggled, sucks, say what you want. Mookie Betts is the guy where if he turns it on and he goes, he's starting to hit the ball. Last 2 games, he's starting to hit the ball, making that solid contact, now, getting on base. And if he has a big game 5 and he comes into the championship series with him hitting, and I don't care what people think, Shohei's gonna hit. Like, Shohei's gonna be Shohei. He's gonna hit. So if you have Shohei and Mookie, they sat Freddie out last game. Maybe give him some rest that he needs. But you still got Hernandez. Teoscar Hernandez is there. Will Smith is there. So it's like, I think Gavin Lux had the big hit in game 4, right? So it's like there's this part of me that feels like, okay, this Dodgers team is underachieving. I feel like the Padres team is the team that's like, yo, we want the smoke. Let's bring it. I think whoever wins that series, though they will be banged up, will be the team that I would like to ride in to see play this Mets team. Because again, the
Absolutely.
Mets team, they're likable. They're never give up. They're hey, let's they've also like they're going to be running into teams, both of those teams that I think are going to want smoke, right? So I think it's just going to be a fun National League Championship series. I'm really excited about it.
Make no mistake, whoever wins the Dodger Padres bracket is going to have your favorite heroes and villains moving forward. I feel sorry for Mookie Betts because he's in the weird position where he's like number 2 on the team. Like we love number 1, which is Ohtani, and you'll give credit to like Teoscar because he's like the guy you never thought coming, but you're the secondary scoring option, so you're not really anyone's favorite. But this might be a chance for him to come out. And the Padres. Going against the Mets, they have history because the Padres bounced the Mets out in 2022. Yeah. So I understand that. It's going to be good for baseball and all that. But I feel if I were the one pulling the strings, the narrative around Ohtani was he's the best player on the planet. And we say this in wrestling. You can't be the best wrestler without a belt. You can't be the best wrestler in the world without a championship. You were on the Angels. That was your excuse. If you get tripped up by a division rival, then we start to really ask questions about, is it really Ohtani?
Right? Not this year.
I'm just saying.
Even if he loses tomorrow, there's going to be no questions if he's not the best player in baseball.
You would blame the Dodgers and it's obvious the Dodgers.
No. I understand what you're saying, but there's going to be no questions. The guy went 50-50 this year. They're not going to ask if he's the best player in baseball. They know he's the best player in baseball.
No, it's not the best player in baseball.
He just doesn't have the belt.
It's about winning the big ones. Like the same thing that we ghosted. It was a ghost over Mookie Betts. He got some hits finally this season, series. Yeah. If Ohtani actually goes to the playoffs and disappears or underachieves in the last game, will we say, dang, maybe it wasn't the Angels' fault? Will we say, okay, he's a good regular season guy, but he can't win the big one?
It's a great question. I think the answer is a resounding no. No one's going to look at this guy this year and say that it was his fault. That's just not
fault.
No. But they're also not going to question if he was the best player in baseball. They're not going to question if it was you know what I mean? Like it was the Angels. It wasn't Shohei. It was the Angels.
Well, you look at LeBron James' early years when he was doing all that extra effort on the court and they still didn't win rings. They had all the memes for him, right? Like, hey man, you're good, but I don't see no rings. Will we ever do that with Shohei Ohtani?
I don't know because again, it's not like Shohei is Kershaw in the postseason, right? Not like Kershaw Shohei is A-Rod. No, seriously. Yeah. This is not a guy that's quote unquote woefully underperformed. A-Rod for a long time woefully underperformed in the playoffs, right?
I'm not saying it's underperformance.
Yeah. So it's like I think there's going to be way more grace. Because they know this guy's greatness, and he's displayed his greatness through the course of this year, even when he wasn't pitching, right? I just don't. I think there's going to be a much longer lead. There'll be some people that'll write a story that'll say, can Shohei win the big one?
Right.
This is still his first year with the Dodgers, and they're still playing in the division.
Come on, he's not a rookie. His first year at the Dodgers, give him some grace.
It's interesting. I just don't think that conversation is going to happen. Maybe even for like 2 or 3 years. Seriously.
So you're going to wait to year 8 in the league for people to go, man, maybe he can't win the big one.
If he keeps going 50-50, if he keeps overwhelmingly proving, he should be unanimous MVP this year. And he didn't even hit.
I'm with you on that. Even though I'm a Lindor fan, I'm with you on that. But what I'm saying is, we always tend to say, the regular season is great, but the postseason is a different animal. You haven't gone to the postseason your first 5 years, and if Shohei stops the run in either San Diego, New York, or against Detroit or the Yankees, are we going to say, oh well, just a bad year? Or are we going to say, dang, they gave him all the tools, he couldn't get it done? Are we going to start questioning his legacy?
I think that will be fair. I don't think it's fair this year. I think it will be fair in a couple of years, right? That's what I think. I'm because I'm trying to think is baseball because you made a really good example with LeBron James. Is baseball a sport that is judged by postseason greatness as much as the NBA? NBA is judged by postseason greatness because the Jordan comparisons and would you do in the playoffs and so forth. Um, you got a guy like Tom Brady in the NFL, but I'm trying to think is like this one's tough. You're right. I'm gonna see, but it's not 2024. It
Sure.
may not even be 2025.
Fair
It
enough.
may be, but I guess if you get to 2026, 2027, he's on the Dodgers. He's on good Dodger teams, and they don't win, and he is by far the best player.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think you probably start to get some of those questions simply because like a team like the Orioles, 2 years in a row, 100 wins last year, didn't get it done this year. They don't have a Shohei, right? So I don't think
Right.
anybody's looking at Adley Rutschman being like, is he not like good? But nobody's calling him the best player in the league. So I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. That's a good question. I still think that this year there'll be no conversations about it. Let me ask you this before we start to wind this particular live episode down. And I say live, the Guardians have they're in the middle of the fifth, going into the bottom of the ninth. The Guardians have a 2-run lead. I don't know if this is Clase time. I'm trying to check to see if he's in the game already. Let's see. Clase I guess he's already in. So it is 3 outs to go. It looks like the Guardians are a 5-3 lead. Of course, Detroit leads the series 2-1, so the Guardians win here. They're going to even the series. It'll be game 5 back in Cleveland. And then we are going to they just finished 4 in Kaufman. The Yankees got a 1-0 lead still. Juan Soto, the only RBI in the first. Interesting fact, though, the Yankees went to Garrett Cole. This is short rest, right? This isn't full rest for Cole, right?
No, short rest.
So the Yankees go to Cole. He's through 4, only giving up 1 hit with 3 Ks. So Yankees actually lead that series 2-1. So if they win, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you go with Cole on short rest. So, hey, look, there's a lot going on. I'm excited about it. I'm excited that we got to talk so much about the Mets. Like I said, I love that series. That series between the Padres and the Dodgers, I think, is just made for all of the. It's a 30 for 30 short waiting to happen because I love it. It is.
Ding, ding, ding.
Again, it makes the American League Series look like kind of the stepchildren, right, of what's going on in the playoffs right now. But again,
Sure.
if the Yankees win, they move on. People are getting excited. But let me ask this, because you just brought it up with Shohei. Yeah, all the tools do we start questioning his greatness? Does this rule that you have apply to Aaron Judge?
Absolutely.
And does it apply to Aaron Judge this year?
Yes, it absolutely applies to Aaron Judge this year. I know you can sit there and talk about, the GM and Cashman and all that jazz. Judge had an escape route. He was a free agent a season and a half ago, but decided to re-sign with the Yankees. Got the captain's patch. The last captain had multiple championships, so he is on the clock. He needs a couple rings in those pinstripes, and if anyone says different, they're in denial.
So, I understand. I tend to agree with you if the heat is more on Judge than it is on Shohei.
For this year, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's a great question for the group. And I will ask, I'll double off Clase. I see you, JD. Shout out. Hold on, definitely gonna get Grace, but I don't think he should keep the expectations high. Yeah, interesting. So that is a question for the group. Some people are already answered it. Answer in the chat if you get it. We'll chop this up. As it stands right now, who has the most heat to win a World Series? Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge?
The answer is Judge. The answer is Judge because the organization hasn't had a title in 2009. Judge has the giant contract that Shohei Ohtani does not have. And like you said, there is some grace being applied because of what Ohtani did offensively this year. So if we look at Freddie Freeman's ankle and Mookie being a ghost the first two games, you can have a lot of things to explain away the Dodgers underachieving. But we were told the top of the season this year that the Yankees were going to be the pennant winners and they're going to roll into the championship.
I agree with you. Aaron Judge has the most pressure to win now. I think this season gives Shohei grace. Next year, I think the pressure's on Shohei. The interesting thing is, even if they make the World Series, only one of them can win it.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of them can win, even if they both make it to the World Series. Let's reverse engineer the question a little bit. Who gives you, and I think New York usually always wins this, but who gives you, Flobo, the more the sky is falling vibes?
Yeah.
If they don't win, who has a harder path between Shohei and Judge to get here next year or the year after? Who's got like, oh my God, we didn't win it this year, we're in trouble?
Oh, that's like two different questions. I was like, the sky is falling down in New York. Like the sky was falling down this year. They were thinking like, hey, look, maybe fire sale, Volpe isn't our guy. Let's get some more hits up there. But you think about the harder path. I'm not saying the American League East is easy, but Toronto is spiraling. They can't get any free agents because of the Canadian tax laws. The Baltimore Orioles have to retool on some level. So, and the Boston Red Sox could be the wild card. They could be great or awful. So I think that path is easier compared to the Padres being as good as they are. So, and Arizona is trying to reload as well. So I think next year, the Dodgers have a harder path, but I think the clock is ticking more for New York.
Interesting. Flobo, before we get you out of here, two quick things
man.
I want to ask you about.
Hit.
One, it seems like the Minnesota Twins are going to be up for sale. They're going to sell them. Do you want to own a Major League Baseball franchise?
If they actually piece that up like crowdfunding, I would. I would put in $50 to be an owner of the Twins because I loved it. I went to Minnesota this summer. The city was nice. The park was great.
Beautiful.
It's
Target
beautiful.
Field is awesome.
Yeah. The food was great. Like it felt great.
Target Field's great.
Yeah, I would love to buy in, but I got like $3 to my name.
So. I don't know if it's still. Forgive me. I don't know if it's still called Target Field, but when I went, it was Target Field, and it's awesome. It is a great baseball ballpark. Great, like if you. I mean, I'm sure it gets like really cold in Minnesota, so you got to be mindful of that type of thing. It's an open air outdoor ballpark, so
that was a mistake.
That was probably a mistake, but yeah, interesting, man.
I wish they had it.
If you owned a major league, say you were the majority owner of a Major League Baseball franchise, what would be your expertise, like of owning the team? Where would you want to be more involved in? Would you be more like the fantasy owner, like you would want to be with the GM group, or would you want to be on like, hey, let me get sales going, let me get some corporate stuff going? Where would you want to be?
So first things first, I wouldn't say all of it, but I know that's a cop-out answer. But I would say if I had the opportunity, definitely getting the brand out there. Like
so the media comms type thing.
Media comms, like brand integrations and partnerships, like just getting more different perspectives in there. Because I know the Mets are kind of an unfair example because I'm a Mets fan. But when you used to go to the Mets team in like 15, 20 years ago, it was kind of like show up, watch your baseball, and get the heck out. Now we retired Willie Mays. We have some of the old timer games are back. We have the Queen's Crew. We have the Grimace integration, Harry Potter night. Like it really feels more of a community thing. And I think that's what people pass down when they have kids of their own. So I would love it that personally.
And we do, ladies and gentlemen, it has just gone final. We are going to have a game 5 back in Cleveland. The Guardians 5-4 over the Tigers in Comerica Park. Hey, exciting stuff. I told you I do not want to be on the other side of seeing a Cleveland Guardians team. I think they're really, really dangerous, but they've got their shot now. So we got a game 5 in Cleveland. Let me see. Let me check the schedule. Today is Thursday. Do you think that takes place when? Let me see. It's going to take place on Saturday.
Yeah, the 12th. The 12th.
That is going to take place on Saturday at 4:38 first pitch on TBS. we'll see who gets in the who gets the ball. We'll see who gets the ball there. But it
Yeah.
is Saturday. We didn't talk
Have
about the
you
we
have
didn't
you
talk
gone
about
to
the
any playoff games at all?
I've never been. So I take that back. That is a lie. I've been to playoff games in the late 90s.
That counts. That counts.
Orioles, Yankees, back when those Yankee teams were winning World Series. I was an Oriole fan still.
Still.
But I was an Oriole fan then.
Yeah.
But I haven't gone. I mean, in this iteration of fandom, I have not gone to a playoff game, and I really want to. I really think it'll be.
Yeah. I
So,
was kind of contemplating because Detroit and Cleveland are like one of the 6 parks I haven't been. I was like,
oh
should
yeah, you
I
should
go?
definitely
Yeah.
should go. Definitely should go.
Yeah.
So, yep, that was so. You like you said though on the branding side, that's where I think I'd want to be as well. Like I don't, I would want to be on the community relation side of any ball team I owned, really heavily trying to kind of get the community charitable, like how do we give back aspect of it, and
True.
then see how we're. But it's fun, man, and we'll see what happens in Minnesota in regards to the sale of that ball club and who gets in, and God, it's just such a you want to talk. I mean, I don't even know what to call the club. I mean, you call it a boys club, billionaires club. I don't know what you call it. But
Yeah.
if you're owning a major league baseball team, you're in an elite club, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny how like it's getting smaller and smaller as years go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, last thing before we get us out of here, and we're because we didn't really talk. We talked a lot about the Padres Dodgers. We didn't talk about the pitching matchup. I don't know who's going to take the ball for the Dodgers, but with Darvish taking the ball for the Padres tomorrow, um, probably advantage Padres, right? Like Darvish is 1-0 with a 1.29 ERA
Yeah.
right now in the playoff. Like, so Darvish is filthy. So,
It is officially TBD for the Dodgers, which is kind
yeah,
of scary.
yeah,
But
kind of,
hey, what's going on there,
kind
LA?
of.
But
Love
Darvish
it.
has been on a
You're gonna be
tear.
pitching tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll do it. I live right down the street, right down on Venice
Yeah,
Boulevard.
man.
But Darvish has had a bit of a renaissance this year, and he's been really good. And so it looks like
Mhm.
Advantage Padres until I'm trying to see who's even available for LA. Well, not even Yamamoto. I wouldn't bring him back for Game 5. So
It would be Yamamoto, right? For that started game one.
I mean, he'll be the most probable, but I wouldn't like. I don't feel like that would be a good matchup at all for
No, because they were
Yoshi.
lighting him up.
Yeah, so yeah, Advantage Padres. Yep.
All right. Well, before we do like final, put the buttons on this thing, we want to thank everybody for following us live. We are every Tuesday night, every Thursday night, every Sunday night, 8 p.m. We are going live on Instagram, live on the YouTube page. And then these episodes upload just about an hour after we get off the air. So make sure you check us out. Subscribe to the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. We really appreciate your support. Tell a friend, jump on. We are talking all playoffs. And then we've got other podcasts. In the Booth is coming back next week with a great episode. We've got a lot of special episodes. If you haven't checked out the Michael Franklin Oakland Ballers story podcast, make sure you do that. I know it gets lost in the feed with so many live episodes, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So, and the absolute last thing, and Flibbo, I'll give you a word on this as well. We've all seen the images that are coming out of Tampa with the Rays Stadium and Hurricane Milton. Obviously, our hearts go out to those affected by the hurricane as well. But just to see a massive, massive ballpark like the Trop getting decimated. And that field was supposed to, I think they had like 10,000 beds in there for shelter. And that field, the roof got peeled off, just decimated. Unreal images. Did you see those, Flobo?
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to live in Florida. I did my college years out there. Granted, in North Florida, and when you live out there, we kind of have this cavalier attitude about hurricanes. You go, okay, it's going to be a couple inches of rain and some wind, but I'm glad no one was seriously injured as far as inside the Trop. Those that were lost their lives in the storm, hearts go out to them. But it was just a ghastly sight to see the Trop, as mammoth as it is, being cut open the way it is. So Mother Nature's no joke, man. When you hear warnings, take heed.
Take heed. That's a good way to say it. We are going to be back here on Sunday night talking all that took place. So by that time, Sunday night, we'll have the championship matchups. We'll have the ALCS and the NLCS ready to go. And we're going to be talking more playoff baseball live. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Flobo, thank you.